It's Sean Kidney here. I'm the CEO of the Climate Bonds Initiative. Welcome today to our new series, our monthly market update. Each month, roughly this time, please watch the email trails and our webinar pages for information. Müthing, who's an analyst in our Markets Intelligence Division, and I will be talking about what are the highlights of the market update and what's happened in the market in the previous months. This is a short 15-minute long webinar, which will also be available on podcast and on YouTube afterwards, so you can share it with your colleagues if you want. Everything is available at www.climatebonds.net/webinars, both past recordings, links to podcasts, and of course, registration for future webinars. Leah, thank you for joining me. So we've had an interesting month, right? Like after our previous one, things have changed. Tell us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sean, and hello to everyone. Yes, things have changed. I don't want to jinx it, but I think what we can see in the market is actually quite positive. So we are talking about April 2020, and despite the issuance having dropped compared to last year's April issuance by 14%, the 16.4 billion US dollars of issuance in April 2020 is actually quite a significant increase to March 2020. So last month we had 3.3 billion US dollars only. And now we're at 16.4. So this is a massive increase in issuance. So as I said, I don't want to jinx it, but I think this is a really good sign that markets might recover further.
So this was in the midst of the COVID crisis. We still beat 2018 and we're getting back up to close to 2019 figures after a collapse of sentiment in March. Okay, that's pretty interesting. Give us a bit more
and
flavor
also,
about this. Yep, you go ahead.
Also very interesting to note, it's the largest issuance figure we have this year so far. So this is really positive as well.
Now, is this global or is this regionally focused?
Well, this is what I was just talking about is global, but then just because I mentioned it last time as well, if you look at China, for example, I think this is a very impressive development. If we look at the second chart at the bottom, so we were at around 150 million US dollars in January and February of issuance from China.
These are domestic bonds issued in renminbi, right? Just to be clear.
Correct.
Okay.
Most of them, at least. When I talk about China, I mean the country of risk is China for these bond issuances. Mm-hmm. And if we look at March, we were at around 800 million US dollar equivalent, and now we're at 2.5 billion. So as I said, this is a very impressive development, especially considering the circumstances, and it leaves us with hope that this will continue and this pattern will continue, and that it also happens in other markets.
Now, the French figures were bulked out by a sovereign issuance, right? What was that in the end?
Correct. Yeah, there was a French sovereign tap. The bond was initially issued in January 2017, and France raised another 2.6 billion euros, equivalent of 2.9 billion US dollars, maturing in 2039. So this actually made up most of the issuance coming from France for this month. Yes.
But we saw some notable deals in other countries. I mean, the one we spoke about last time was Iberdrola with its amazing oversubscription rate, but that wasn't the only one, was it?
Yes, just mentioning Iberdrola, and if we can look at the next chart relating to
Thank you for the prompt. There you go.
Exactly. So we've talked about France, we've talked about China, and Spain is also very impressive. So the main deal here was Iberdrola. It was actually oversubscribed 11.67 times, that's a big level of demand. Okay. This is a big.
So if anyone has any doubts about investor demand, I think that kind of knocks it on the head.
It does indeed. It does for sure. It is also really good seeing these issuers coming back to the market. An interesting figure as well is that Iberdrola actually makes up 37% of all Spain's issuance. And it's good to see that even in these times, the issuer keeps coming back to the market. That was, by the way, a 750 million euro deal maturing in 5 years' time.
With a very, very good coupon for them. I'm going to say, just for the gossip section, we also saw a bond at the beginning of this month which topped that with Swisscom, which was is not in these figures, but it'll come up in the next one. But still, it was so amazing, 14.5 times oversubscribed, and I think that was €1 billion, wasn't it? The Swisscom.
Yes, it was. So yeah, these are really good signs, but this is something we should be stay tuned for the next one, because this deal will actually be covered in the next version of our Markets Monthly.
Give us a flavor of other deals this month that are notable.
Notable. So we spoke about France, we spoke about Spain. We also have Netherlands. Quite a significant amount of the green bonds issued in April from the Netherlands came from Royal Schiphol Group. Also a 750 million euros deal maturing in 9 years' time. And this is actually one of 17 issuers that are coming from the Netherlands. So there is definitely potential in this market. And the issuer also covers quite a few of different categories with their framework. So they're financing green real estate, they're financing low carbon transport on the airport premises, a wide range of categories. So this is really good to see as well. It's the company's second deal actually, and the overall issuance adds up to 1.4 billion as of now.
This is important to note, this is an airport, but the proceeds are not being used for aviation. They're being used for green buildings and things like that. What else is in this particular deal? Because it's unusual to have an airport issuer.
Yes, that is correct. So mainly the proceeds go towards the operations side of things. There is a very small fraction that also goes towards aviation and research for a low carbon future for the aviation industry, but this is a very small fraction. So as I said, it is more about transportation on the airport premises and is focused more on the operational side, which is really good to see.
Okay. So the other interesting thing, which is not strictly be part of the green bond market, has been this continuing growth of social COVID and pandemic bonds. I mean, what are you seeing there?
Yeah, so we had an issuer from Sweden getting that actually issued commercial papers solely targeted towards increasing the production of ventilators and life-saving equipment. So there are bonds issued directly towards that. We have, for example, Indonesia issued its longest dated USD denominated bond of 4.3 billion. That is something we should know. This 4.3 billion, and it is also funding the impact of the current pandemic in Indonesia.
So this is a sovereign pandemic bond.
Correct. Yes.
Have we seen other sovereign pandemic bonds yet? I know we've seen some subnational, but sovereign.
Sovereigns, as of now, I am not aware of, but it is worth mentioning that we have seen quite a few pandemic bonds from China, not on the sovereign side, but selected deals are adding up to $3.1 billion. They're coming from multiple different organizations. There was an energy company with actually 3 deals in March and April. So it is becoming a thing. So social and pandemic bonds are obviously on the rise at this moment because this is what people are focused on right now.
We can expect a lot of these sovereigns coming through, I think, without a doubt, going forward. So tell me now, what else should we know about March that you haven't covered?
What should we know about March? Very good question. So there were more interesting deals, but something that I would like to mention, just because we're speaking about COVID, is obviously still the green recovery. And there have been voices that, for example, airline bailouts should be tied to CO2 reduction.
Oh, we had that Air France KLM announcement, didn't we?
Correct.
What does it mean, though?
It means for Air France, it actually means that the bailout will be tied to a reduction in short-haul routes that the airline serves that actually compete with high-speed rail. So this is something that is the condition. This is a condition by the government for Air France's bailout. And this is obviously what we hope to see in other cases as well.
This is great news. People need, just for our listeners, high-speed rail is way, way, way lower emissions in a country like France with a relatively low emission grid than aviation. Even in a high carbon grid with, say, coal-fired power stations like Poland, high-speed rail is still saves emissions. It's still at minimum 17% fewer emissions than aviation. So, and of course, as that grid greens, that high-speed rail is the right infrastructure of the future. So that's a fantastic example of a kind of conditionality that we certainly have been calling on people to bring in with these kinds of stimulus and recovery funds that make available. More TGV. Any other interesting deals that you've noted in the broad stimulus and recovery discussion?
Deals as well, but one more thing.
Yep.
Sorry, going back to the topic before, we are actually seeing some commitment of big oil companies to net zero by 2050. I just wanted to mention that in the emissions discussion, because this is a very, very good sign as well. So we have Total and Royal Dutch Shell. So this is really, really good news to see them putting green on their agenda and actually committing to something. So in the emissions discussion, this is also very, very notable.
It's a fantastic development. You'll hear a little bit later this year when we publish our white paper on transitions with transition bonds and so on, how we might approach assessing these targets and these claims, because are the goals ambitious enough for that particular asset base? Are the proposed CapEx or strategies the right kind of strategies? These are things we can now get our teeth into, but it's fantastic that we now have these headline commitments, at least, to start examining what the pathway is. I mean, we do have some challenges because both those companies have extraordinarily large CapEx plans in oil and gas still, which would seem to be a little inconsistent to transition. But hey, let's have a closer look and let's have a robust discussion about these things going forward. We're going to hopefully see more of this going forward, including national plans around recovery, where certainly Europe is committed to green stimulus. And I know this is a live and very productive discussion in China at the moment. Anything else on the green stimulus and the recovery that you think we should be aware of?
This was actually all I wanted to mention. I would go back to your previous question now.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, so two more deals I just wanted to quickly mention. One of them is a certified deal, certified against the climate bond standard, the water infrastructure criteria. That is Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District, raised $80 million, and it is actually the first certification in the US Midwest, and also the first certification in the US that combines wastewater and stormwater. So we were very happy that this deal came through.
That's pretty cool. We've got to wrap up now in the last minutes. Gossip, please. Any gossip?
Gossip, yeah. Who doesn't like some juicy green bond gossip? One thing, I mean, we have seen quite a few deals issued so far as of now in May, but this will be covered next month, obviously. I just wanted to mention the Daimler chair actually addressed, obviously, the COVID pandemic and the recovery. And he mentioned that one of the means how he wants to achieve emission reduction targets is a green bond. He doesn't say how and where and when, but he does say a green bond will be one of the means. So I think this is something we should also stay tuned for, because it is really good news for the car industry and
this is
a very good
right?
outlook. Correct. Yes.
Okay. We've got something to watch. Exactly. Fantastic. Exactly. Thank you, Leah, for joining us today. We need to wrap up now. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. If you have any questions, please feel free to write in and we'll attempt to answer it. This is available as a podcast and a webinar, and we posted to Youku in China as well. On your screen, you'll have the URL, climatebonds.net/webinars to find out more. Please join Leah and I next month when we examine the exciting news from May. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Sean, and thank you very much, everyone. Bye.